low-key nervous to make this episode. Oh my gosh. Okay, hi guys. We're gonna be talking about something a little crazy today. Let's talk peach wine. I've been putting this off for like a really long time. Just because I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. I mean, like, I have a lot to talk about and I'm really excited to talk about it. But at the same time, I'm really nervous to talk about it. Because this is a lot of, like, personal information to go out on the internet to strangers and my family members. Anyways, let's get into it. Let's talk peach wine. What is peach wine and why do I talk about it so much? So peach wine is a television pilot that I made my junior year of college in 2023. It follows 4 main characters, Emma, Noah, Ava, Ben. And you guys know what like a love triangle is? Well, this is kind of a love square. So it's a romantic comedy drama about these 4 college-age students. And they basically handle, in the pilot, it's a romantic comedy. I made this project for over a year. It turned out to be a lot. The vibes are kind of like The Summer I Turned Pretty meets Friends, meets Crazy Stupid Love, meets Bridgerton, meets Valentine's Day kind of thing. Like those are kind of my inspiration. It took a lot of elements from all of those. It's definitely a slow burn, friends to lovers type thing, friends to enemies type thing. It's a lot. So each individual character has their own plot line, and it follows all of them. It's 26 minutes long. I will say it's on my YouTube. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, because I'm about to spoil a whole bunch of stuff for you. What really happened? So peach wine was written about my real life. This incident really happened to me, and then I exaggerated it to make it for film. So what really happened? When I was a freshman, I had picked out a roommate, and due to unfortunate circumstances, she could not live with me anymore in the dorms. She ended up living with her dad off campus. So she met her boyfriend on Hinge, and then she moved out of her dad's house into her boyfriend's apartment with his 2 roommates. So she was living like the new girl life. So she lived with her and 3 boys. So it took her a minute to like get down to Florida, but when she finally did, we were like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hang out. Let's have like a wine night and have a girl time. Her boyfriend at the time was not there, but 2 of the roommates were. They both were like out. And we went to Publix and we were like, oh, what kind of wine should we get? Haha. And just randomly we're like, oh, what about this peach one? And I was like, oh, I love peach flavored stuff. Let's get it. So this is actually a funny story. But the cashier, she had a fake, like my friend had a fake ID, and the cashier looked at it and she was like, ain't no way. And me and my friend were like shaking in our boots because both of us were, I was 19. I had just turned 19 when this happened. And she was also 19 when this happened. So the cashier looked at the ID, looked at us, looked at the ID, looked at us, and then goes, you guys need this, and handed it to us. Little did she know how much that cashier had my fate in the palm of her hands in that instant. Anyways, we get home, we are drinking, we got like 3 bottles of Barefoot peach wine. Do you know how drunk you can get off of that stuff? Anyways, we were already like heavily intoxicated at this point of the night. One of her roommates comes home, and I had been hearing about like all the roommates and all this stuff, and one of the roommates came home because he forgot something while they were switching bars. We ended up meeting, and he never went back out to the bar. Let me just say that. So the peach wine story unfolded. And then, so the conversation that Noah and Emma have at the 3/4 in, they're like, I don't remember anything. I was drunk. And the point of that scene was they were not saying what they were saying. So when you're watching it, you're like, this is kind of weird. But they're talking with their eyes. So what they're saying is it's a game of like chicken almost. So Emma is going back on what happened that night because she's scared of it. And Noah's like, well, if you're not going to admit what happened, I'm not either. And it's this game of chicken back and forth in like a 6-second conversation. And basically in that moment, they agree, we're never going to speak of that again. Like, that never happened. We're erasing that. And that really did happen in real life. So when I met the person that Noah was based after in real life, we had that conversation and we both decided to never speak of it again. It took 2 years. We never brought it up. Both of us knew that the other person knew, but we never admitted it to anyone or each other, which was crazy. This story is just a big show of Grace in a situationship. What happens when Grace gets into a situationship? Because it gets messy. So, all of this happened in the summer of 2022. January comes 2023. And I'm in this film class. And in film classes, the way that they work, so basically, and this is why people say film classes are easy, because a lot of the time you'll be taught things in the class and you lecture on it, and then the professor will be like, okay, make a film using this theory that we just learned, or using this skill, or using whatever, demonstrate that you know what it is. So as long as you demonstrate what the prompt is looking for, most of the time you can get away with stuff. So I had an open concept project and I had no idea what to make it on. And I'm going back and forth, and something in me is being like, make the movie. But again, I had never talked about it. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I should talk about it. Like, I don't know. Something in me is like, make the movie. I was like, no, I was going back and forth on it. When you have film projects, there are like prompt generators, and it's not like AI, like make me a prompt. The one that I like a lot, and I'll like use the generators to get ideas and like spitball and then like build off of those when I'm writing. So the generators was like a noun and an adjective or something like that. And I got a friend who lies, and I was like, shit. This is God telling me that I need to just pony up and do this thing. I ended up making it. It was a 9-minute, very short version of what happened. It wasn't very good on my part. Everybody that was involved did a really, really good job, but it was my fault because we filmed the whole thing in 5 hours, from the hours of like 11 to 4 in the morning on one random night in my apartment. None of us had rehearsed before. I was explaining to the cinematographer, the actors, the sound people what to do in that moment. It was a mess, I will admit, and it was all my fault. Everybody did their best job, but like scheduling was really hard because it had a lot of people. Like, it had 4 cast members, which is a lot. So everyone's schedule had to work together, and it didn't. I mean, like, it did. It was fine. I did fine for the project. I got a good grade, whatever. So later, probably about like a month after the class was over, I was hanging out with some friends and the professor of that class, and they were like, yeah, Peach Wine was really good. I liked the story. And the professor was like, you could remake it. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, we could remake it, like, on the side. And I was like, interesting. So I agreed to remake it, and I spent the next 2 months rewriting the script. I rewrote it, I extended it. It started being like 5 pages, and then it ended up being about 25 pages later. It took me 2 months. I got a new crew, I got a new cast. I can't say a new crew. A lot of the crew was reused, and then the cast, one person from the original cast, I recasted. The guy that played Noah, he was recasted. So we held auditions, and I only brought in 4 people for the audition. I only brought in 3 people for the audition. And I knew that like I wanted these 2 to play a couple. And at the auditions, they were being like really touchy and really lovey, and me and my producer and the cinematographer were like, I think they know each other. And afterwards, I knew they killed the audition. They were great. Their chemistry was awesome. And then I was like, yeah, they definitely had known each other before. Like, you don't make just chemistry like that. And we stalked their Instagrams later, and they were dating. I was like, oh, cool. A dating couple plays a dating couple. But that was really convenient because I could, like, do more stuff with them. So I could have them, like, act like a couple because they were already more familiar with each other. It wasn't like Emma and Noah, who had never met before. They were complete strangers. Emma was a last-minute catch because she was in, I want to say Colombia. It was either Colombia or Guatemala. I'm so sorry, Valentina. I don't remember. I think it was Colombia. So she was visiting her family, and I called her and I was like, hey, you got it if you want it, but rehearsals start next week. We rushed into rehearsals. We spent about like 2 months on rehearsals. In my real life, the guy that Noah was written about, we were still friends. We were like best friends. It was the classic like girl best friend, boy best friend situation. We were still best friends. Like, we called every day. We talked nonstop. He knew that I was making the movie, but A, he had never seen the first one, and B, he didn't really know what the movie was about. Like, I was super vague with what the contents of the film was because I didn't want to admit it. When I was writing his parts, he would like be on FaceTime in one tab and I would be writing in another, and I would be like, hey, what would you say in this situation? And he was like, I don't know. I would probably say this. And I was like, oh, cool. And I would just like write down what he would say. Like if I was really stuck. But yeah, he had no idea that it was about that. Whoops. In terms of production, I had the best casting crew ever. I had 11 people on my casting crew in total, and they were so incredibly dedicated and just hardworking, amazing, talented people. Every single one of them. I cannot stress enough how thankful I am for them, because if it wasn't for them, none of this would be real. All of us were either college students or worked for the college. So all of us were in classes all day. The majority of us had jobs, and we were all doing this too. So most of the time we did rehearsals for like 2 nights a week for about 2 months. Those rehearsals took place from like 10:30 to 12:30 at night. And thankfully, this was such a blessing. The guy that played Noah, we used his house for set because he had 2 living rooms. So we filmed it all within the same house. And his mom, he lived with his mom and his sister, and they both worked at night. So it just kind of all worked out that the schedules worked, and it was such a blessing because most of the time you don't get to rehearse in your set. So we could bang out a whole bunch of stuff because we could work out blocking, we could work out sound, we could work out lighting, we could work this all out in rehearsals so that when filming came, we can go through it really fast, which was such a blessing. We filmed it all in 3 days. Do you know how hard it is to film a 26-minute film in 3 days? It was 3 nights. I can't even say 3 days. We filmed from about like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. for 3 days straight. Everybody was such a trooper. It was so difficult. But everybody saw the vision. Everybody wanted the same things out of it. By the end, we were exhausted. I remember the day after we wrapped, I went into work and my boss was like, "You look like shit." I was like, "I've only gotten 3 hours of sleep in the last couple days. Thank you." And I was under so much stress. He was like, "You look like shit." I was like, "Well, thanks." It was so incredibly fun, but we had so many setbacks. It was such a challenge, and it challenged me in ways that I didn't even know that I needed to be challenged in. It actually like got to a point where every time my phone would ring or my watch would buzz, my heart would drop a little bit, because it got to a point where like every single message on my phone was bad news. Every single one. My mom used to always say like she hated her phone, and she would always be like, "Oh, I hate when my phone rings," and blah 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 blah. Like, not really, but just kind of playing. And I never understood it until then, because I was like, "Oh, every single thing is bad news." Like, I would dread having my phone. Like, I would put my phone in other rooms because I couldn't handle any more bad news. So we had 2 videographers. So we had so much footage. I had my first cinematographer who had been with me from the beginning, and we had the whole storyboard made. She knew exactly what was going on the whole time. But then later I found an editor, and the editor was like, "Hey, I can be on set too if you want." And I was like, "Absolutely, that would be great, so you know the sequencing and all this stuff." And then he was like, "Do you need a second cinematographer?" I was like, "Absolutely, I do. Bring your camera and get to filming." And I was like, "You can film behind the scenes, you can film extra shots, you can film coverage, like whatever you want to do, go for it." And both of them together did such a good job. I cannot praise them both enough. We have so much behind the scenes footage, so much, like, so many options in editing. It was amazing. We had sound, who our sound guy also did lighting, and the sound guy, I didn't know until later, but was the only person who on set who had directed something else of his own. So he helped me out so much with, like, because this was the first big thing I've ever directed. He helped me out so much with, like, this is what you say, this is the proper terminology, this will help with continuity, there's a shadow right there, like things that I wouldn't even know to look for. He pulled through. My AD was amazing. She was on top of everything at all times, just so in check. She had every single second planned out, and she kept us in check so much. So do you guys, did you ever do like community theater? Or like, we're a theater kid? Well, there's this thing where like the people will say like 5 minutes, and then you say thank you 5. It's kind of like the restaurant version of Heard, where you're confirming that like you know how much time is left. So she would like check the clock, and it would be like midnight, and she'd be like 12:03, and we started going thank you 12:03 as a joke back, but it ended up being really sweet. And we all would like do it in unison. We only had one take wonder, and if you've worked in film, you know that like most times everything is shot a couple times. A one hit wonder is when you do one take and you're like, that's it, I'm done, we can move on. Like, it was so good, I don't want to risk doing it again. We had one take wonder, and it was the kiss scene, and it was a long shot, so I was really nervous about it. During the kiss scene, they apparently had like rehearsed it on their own, because when we shot it, they pulled out something that I had never seen before. It was the best time they had ever done that scene. And long shots are really hard because the camera's rolling for a long time. You hide a lot in each cut. And when you have a long shot, there's a lot that can go wrong in a certain amount of time. They blew it out of the park. I think after watching it, I just stood there looking at them like for a good minute. And they were like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "What's the next shot? Let's go." That was amazing. Our editing, so like I was saying, the guy that was our second cinematographer also did the editing, and he also was a colorist. Oh my gosh. That guy really like pulled 3 roles, and I'm so grateful for him. So since he was on set and he also was working with the camera, the 2 cameras, or the first cinematographer and the sound, would give him their SD cards and he would go home and upload them, which was so much of a relief off of me. It did take a full month to edit, and we had so many different trials. We probably had 12 versions, because every time he would send a new version, I would be like, "Can we change this little thing, please?" And then like it would just change back and forth. The final product came out so beautiful. I could not ask for anything better. We had amazing people on board, and like I said, each of them were in their niche, and they did so well, and I learned so much that I just never thought to think about as it comes to tech, and they all just knocked it out of the park. I could not be more happy with how it was. The continuity was perfect. So in film, continuity, like I said, you can hide a lot through shots and through cuts, but when there are a lot of cuts, things change in between. So you need to make sure that everything is the exact same, so the audience should not pick up on a cut. There was only one continuity problem, and it doesn't irk me, but like it also does a little bit, and it's in the montage. The montage itself was its own monster. It was so much fun to film that. When we were in rehearsals, we never ever practiced the montage. So what happens in the montage, if you haven't watched it, which you should, is the 4 characters are playing card games, and that's a metaphor, and they're drinking peach wine, and eventually Ben and Ava fall asleep. It's hard not to say their real names. Ben and Ava fall asleep, and then Noah and Emma have this moment, and it's the build-up of that. So the montage, we never ever practiced it, and I was like, "Guys, we've got 20 minutes. Actors, I'm gonna yell things out at you. Please follow me the best that you can. Sound, we're not going to use much sound, but try to get as much as you can, and we might throw some in there later. Cameras, do your thing. This can be artsy, it can be coverage, it can be whatever." And like the first cinematographer knew what I was looking for and knew the vision, but the second cinematographer, be as artsy as you want. And I think both of them like got pretty artsy with it, and they got to play a lot. At first, I was just like, "We're playing games. Like, do whatever you want. You're at a party. You're playing board games." And then they suddenly, like, I was like, "Noah here, Ben here, Ava here, Emma here." And then I was like, "Switch, switch." And then they, like, switched parts in the set frequently. And then, like, you know, the script came back to play. That was so much fun. And it turned out so well. Ugh. So the peach wine itself, I want to take a moment for the props. The peach wine bottles, we had 5 bottles. So we needed 3 or 4. We needed 3 for the set. And then I had a little one, and then I had a spare big one. So those bottles, they were actually filled with white cranberry juice. The bottles were actual barefoot bottles because I wanted the bottles to resemble the real life thing. So I wanted the bottles to resemble a real life wine bottle. So I went on Amazon and I looked for like cheaper ones, but didn't work out. Nothing like quite fit the vision. So I ended up buying like those 4 bottles from the store, and I bought some extras to play with. And we emptied out the wine. I drank it because it was a very stressful time. Not a single drop of peach wine got wasted. So our graphic designer actually made the logos that you see on the peach wine bottle. So he hand did those. It's called Barefoot. No, Barefoot's the real one. It's Bare Hand. He did Bare Hand, and it's a pink like hand, and he hand did those. They looked so good. And then I like laminated them and stuck them to the bottles, and then filled the bottles with the cranberry juice. But this is actually really funny. So those bottles, because they were printed logos, they couldn't go in a normal fridge. So I had a mini fridge in my room, and those peach wine bottles had their own mini fridge for about 2 weeks, because it had to be like cold enough that the wine or the juice wouldn't spoil, but not so cold that the labels would run. Continuity problems. So I had to hand transfer those wine bottles for 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks. For the 3 days of filming. And then during the montage, they obviously like drank it and that kind of stuff. The one continuity problem is that a clip from the beginning of filming was put at the end of the montage. I didn't catch it until like a year later, but the bottle was full and it was supposed to be empty. No one's going to notice it but me. Like I said, I did not notice it. But looking back at it now, I'm like, you can't unsee it. So back to my real life. Remember, real life Noah and I never spoke about what had happened. And one of the mornings I was feeling really guilty about it. And we would talk like every morning, every night, in the middle of the day, all the time. I was on FaceTime with him, and I asked him if he remembered what happened that night. And I worked it into the conversation. I didn't straight up be like, do you remember? And he said, like, yeah, I remember we drank all that wine, and we got really drunk, and yeah, I remember that night. And he wouldn't admit that, like, you know. So eventually I told him that it was written about him and that night, and it was a mix of emotions, honestly. I think he was really caught off guard and just like confused, but then we kind of had like a little disagreement, I think, because he realized that like this was a thing, and he kind of denied the whole thing happening, even though like we both know that we remembered. And then he admitted to somebody else that he did remember, like, later. It was just like this whole thing, whether the events were accurate or not. And some of them were exaggerated. For my own personal privacy, I'm not elaborating on details. It took a full month to edit it, and then once it was edited, I knew that we were going to go the festival route. So what the festivals do is they want first premiere status. So what that means is, like, if you submit a film to a film festival and it gets accepted, they want to say that they're the first ones to air it. So if it's available on YouTube, if it's this, you're immediately disqualified and you lose your money. So for that reason, I knew that peach wine would not be seen by the public for a long time. POV, it's 2 years later and you guys are just seeing it now. So when you're making a film, you do this thing called a screen test. And the screen test basically means that, like, when you're looking at it on a computer, it's going to look completely different than it does on a screen or on a TV or yada, yada, yada. So once you have your final one, you kind of want to get it on a screen, like a projector to see how it reads, if anything is wrong, if you can fix it before it's like time to submit it. So I knew that we were not going to have this shown for a long time. So I was like, well, if we're doing our screen tests, why don't we invite our friends and family to come see it so that they can see it before it goes away? And we do have movie theater on campus, but it only held 40 people. And we had 11 cast and crew members, so that meant like only 4 people per person. And I was like, yeah, that's not really enough. So the internship that I worked with had a connection to a local independent movie theater. And I had a connection with the owners because I had worked with them through the internship. And I was like, hey, is it okay if like one night when you guys are slow, like on a Wednesday or Thursday, we can show Peach Wine? And they so graciously let us do it. They gave us a 250 person theater for the premiere. There was standing room only. Like when I tell you, we invited everybody that we knew. We invited students, faculty, our friends and family, newspapers, the dean of the college, investors, local film professionals, everybody that you could think of we invited, and we packed the house. That was one of the best nights of my entire life. I feel like that was like my wedding, in the sense of like I never stopped talking about it. Like it was so much planning. There were so many pictures. When my friends have birthdays, like I post pictures from that night. That's what I mean. Like it feels like my wedding because there was just so much going on. We had a red carpet. We had cast and crew interviews. We had newspapers there that were doing interviews. So they had like TVs on the wall for like movie posters, and we all had our headshots up there. We had like a toast of actual peach wine. That was so sweet. We had a Q&A with the cast. It was also the pettiest thing I probably have ever done in my entire life, because the guy that played Noah, I made his ass sit in that movie theater and watch it. Like he was there that night. And the girl that played Ava was there. The guy that played the girl that Ava was loosely written about was there. The guy that Ben was about. So the guy that like was Ben, he wasn't really there. Like he wasn't there that night. So he had no idea. The only reason that I say like the person Ben was about, because like it was Ava's boyfriend. But Ben's character is the one that's like the most made up, because him as a person had nothing to do with it. So I kind of got to play with Ben's character more than the other three. But at the end, I was like, who's in the wrong? And everyone was like, Noah. I was like, yes. See, start an argument with me, and I'll get a room full of 300 people to back me up. Yeah, but it was basically one of the pettiest things I've ever done. But it was the best. We did have an after party. So this was kind of like a full circle moment. So flashback to when I was hanging out with all of my friends and we decided to remake peach wine. It was at this bar called Fat Cats. And Fat Cats has gone out of business now, so it's okay. I can talk about it. And I'm 21 now, so it doesn't really matter. I can talk about it. We went to this local bar, and that's where we decided that we wanted to remake peach wine. So we had our after party at the same bar. And like an idiot, most people in the crew were over 21. Me, the assistant director, and the girl that played Emma were all 20. Emma was 19. Anyway, we were under 21. But like an idiot, I was like, hey, I called the place and I was like, can we reserve the party? Like, can we reserve this party room? Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. So, like, they had bouncers there. That was literally such a L on my part. But they had bouncers there, so everyone that was under 20 couldn't get in, except me. because I was so furious. I got there late and because I had to like clean up and stuff. And I walked in there like I had a mission and no one stopped me. I had also like been there a lot. Like a lot of our, like we used to go there a lot because I don't know, we all liked it and we liked the food. So they like knew who I was and they just never questioned me. I don't know how I just pushed past that bouncer. I was like, don't talk to me. It worked. So the distribution, after the premiere, we sent it out to about 10 international Oscar qualifying film festivals. So the really annoying part that I didn't know was that Peach Wine was 26 minutes long, and a lot of them cut off at 20 minutes. We were kind of not disqualified, but we weren't eligible for a lot of festivals. So we did 10 like big ones, and then we kind of spam sent out to a whole bunch of free admission ones. We got into 5 virtual film festivals. We didn't win anything. We didn't rank all that high. But it's 26 minutes. Like, it's a long film because it's made to be a TV pilot. So when you're up against 3-4 minute films, people could watch 6 films in the time that it would take them to watch Peach Wine. So it didn't get a lot of votes. It didn't get a lot of views. It's okay. I was just happy we got in. It was kind of a big hurt to the wallet and the ego, but that's okay. It's okay. We'll be all right. Because of the watch policy, I didn't release it. So all of our contracts are up as of 2025 because it got done in 2023. We were done our contracts end of 2024. So then I had kind of been like going back and forth on what I wanted to do with it, and where I wanted to put it next. And I had been contemplating it a lot, honestly, because I didn't know the right step. Like I said, Peach Wine is like my baby. It's my pride and joy, so I don't want to make the wrong move and like pigeonhole myself, but I also don't want to hide it forever and nothing comes of it. So the story itself, because the story keeps going. Sorry, I leave the pilot on a cliffhanger. The story keeps going, and it does cover about 3 years of my life. And I don't want to say like it's obviously not directly my life because my life is not that entertaining. Just for lack of a better words, the melody line of the plot is what happened in real life. So it's a long period of time, and each character has their own storyline that's just as in depth as mine. So I was like, this is going to be so thorough and long. I don't really know what to do with it or where the best place to put it is or where to go next. So initially I wanted to make it into a movie, and then I realized that it would be way too long to be a movie, and then I was like, oh, it could be a TV show, but I don't want to like cut out any of the like details because it is a slow burn. And with slow burn, it's like, you guys have watched The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's a lot of like eye contact, and it's a lot of symbolism and little subtle things, and like the buildup is big and important, so you need it. And like, trust, I've cut out as much as I can. It needs to be as long as it is. And then I was like, maybe I'll make it into a trilogy, and I just didn't know. Making a movie is expensive. I just didn't know what to do with it. So I've come across the idea, and I've settled on, I'm gonna make it into a book. I'm so excited. It is going to be a book, and then hopefully we will get to the movie steps. But where I am at in my life right now, I think that is the best way to go with it, because I don't want it to get stale. I already have it all written out. As of right now, I know exactly how the story's gonna go, and I know the sets, times, whatever. I just need to like write it. I have it as an outline, and I've started writing a couple chapters, but one of the parts that's really stumping me is I'm not a consumer of books, and I'm a big believer that like you cannot create content that you don't consume. So I'm not a big book person. I'm much more a movie person. So I'm like, I guess I have to read books to see the movie style versus book style. I'm definitely changing the end of the pilot to then go into more, because more things happen in the book, and if the pilot ends the way that it does currently, it doesn't make sense. So I do have to change some stuff about the pilot. I also want to do a director's cut, which is basically like I'll make a video with like the film on one end and me on the other, and I break down the little like nuances. I think that'll be so fun. And then I want to do like a documentary using all of the footage that we have about how we made it, but I probably won't do that until after the book is done, so that I can incorporate the book into the documentary. And it's gonna be called Thank You 205, because we called rap at 2:05 in the morning, and I was telling you before, like, the whole Thank You 5, I think that would be a really cute title. To wrap it up, I am finally coming clean about what peach wine is and how it works and all that fun stuff. I spent a long part of my life on peach wine. And the story started writing itself when I was 19, and I'm 22 years old now. And I have learned so much since the beginning of this whole peach wine event. Like, I can look back at it now, and I'm so thankful for it. It sucked. Parts of it sucked. I will be so honest with you. It was hard, but I learned so much about myself and who I am, and from living it, writing about it, processing it, pushing it out, the whole thing. I learned about my leadership style. I learned to be a good leader through it, time management, event planning, balancing work and friendships, and not even to mention, I just learned so much about like the film industry and how film works and filming in general, like the tech. Like, I couldn't tell you the first thing about sound. I'm not a techie person whatsoever. I'm more on the admin side of film, like the director, kind of like working with the actors and working with scheduling, management, marketing, that kind of stuff. That's where I fall into it. So going into the tech was like a whole new world for me. And like I said, again, I'm so thankful for my cast and crew who was so knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. Because, like, yes, I do have strengths in film, but the tech is not one of them. So to have them who knew so much about it and was so gracious to help me. Like, a lot of people would have been like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. And they were never like that. Like, I can honestly say every single one of them helped me as much as they can. And again, I gave everybody, I feel like, a lot of liberties to take on it, because I was like, I don't know, I want this project to be good. I don't know the first thing about sound or lighting or whatever, editing. You do your thing and let me know, and I'll tell you if I like it or not, if it fits the thing. And I told them straight up, like, if the only reason I'm going to say no is because it either doesn't fit the whole vibe, or I don't know, it'll like take too much time from the whole project. Like, I'm not going to poo-poo your idea for no reason. But I learned so much. Emotionally, I will say it was one of the hardest times, between probably starting from like filming started, I want to say, in September of 2023 until about January 2024, because I was going through so much stuff at that time where it was just like, I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest, and I'm learning so much and I'm being humbled so much. And then at the same time, peach wine itself was so heavily wrapped up in my life that the story was writing itself at the same time. So like in Peach Wine the book, there's a part about Peach Wine the movie, if that makes sense. Like, they're so intertwined that A, I was trying to make it all work, but B, I was trying to feel and process all the emotions of the story unwrapping itself, which was a lot, and emotionally it took a toll on me, I will be completely honest. But I would not trade it for anything. And that experience that I have, and like the feelings that I had felt in that time, I'm so grateful for. Yeah, they were intense, but I came out of it so much better. And now I have this, which is my pride and joy, and I get to share it with you guys. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy Peach Wine. It is my pride and joy. And now you guys know way too much about my personal life. Whoops. It happens, I guess. But, yeah. Please go watch Peach Wine. Look out for the book. It'll be coming soon. My goal is to have it done by the end of 2026. Hopefully. But we'll see. I don't really know how that's going to turn out, but we'll try. Anyways, do your extra credit. As always, thank you for watching. Sorry this was a really long episode, and I just skimmed the surface, honestly. I think I still have enough content for the director's cut and the documentary. So much happened in that year. But it's okay. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.